Everybody is well, and I think we all have our happy thoughts go out to Andy for today, and looking forward to hearing how everything goes. But we're fortunate to have Tom today, and I think from what Andy's told me about Tom, what you do, I think very applicable to this group, in the sports entertainment world throughout the world, and we're really looking forward to hear what you do, and we'll probably have some questions. As lawyers, a lot of us, it's hard for us not to talk. So thank you very much for taking your valuable time with us today.
Mark, no problem at all, and thanks to you both for having me on the call and allowing me to present. So hopefully the content is of interest. It's quite unique, and what we do is quite unique. At the moment, I should just preface it all by saying we are very much a UK and Ireland based company at the moment, but we certainly have big designs on moving what we do and kind of transporting it certainly into the States and into other jurisdictions as well, which I can talk about as we go through the presentation. What I thought I'd do, and what I agreed with Andy, is that I thought actually it's quite useful to see one of our for me to run through one of our presentations that we would do to one of our partner clubs. And by doing that, I think I can explain a bit more about the background to our business and exactly what we do. So this is very much a sort of club-based model. We have more generic programs. I'll explain a bit more about that in a second, like horse racing. And I'm going to just run through some of the stats as well, just so you can sort of see the size of, the size and scope of the types of programs that we operate. So this is a proposal that I did for AFC Bournemouth, one of our Premier League clubs in the UK. And it follows very much along the lines of what we already do for one of our partner clubs, which is Everton Football Club, and many others besides. So who are we and what we do, and what do we do? So the company is called Rewards4. I think that slide pretty much encompasses what we are. We're a sports and loyalty operator. And we run both generic programs, so sports-based loyalty programs, things like horse racing, which is a more generic program. We also run very specific programs for each of our club partners. This, as you can see, is all about AFC Bournemouth, and it's entitled Cherries Rewards. That's the sort of working title. They haven't agreed to it yet, but they're certainly well down the line in terms of wanting to set up their own program. So a bit of background on us. We've been operating in this space since 2010, so quite a while now. Some of those brands and some of the sports that you'll see in the top couple of rows of this slide give you an indication as to the types of organisations that we're working with. So the Jockey Club, for example, who would be the biggest commercial operator in horse racing in the UK. People like the Rugby Football League, which runs rugby league in this country, and other clubs beside. Rugby clubs in the Premiership like Leicester Tigers and Saracens, cricketing organisations, and Premier League football clubs like Everton. Some of the other brands that you'll see that I've included on this slide are what I would call our integration partners. Now, the reason why they're really important to our proposition is we integrate our platform, so our program platform, with those ticketing, merchandising, sometimes food and beverage partners. What that allows us to do is to enroll members very easily into the program, and it also allows members to collect program currency, and also, most importantly, to redeem and spend program currency very seamlessly with those partners. So I'd take an example. So AFC Bournemouth have Ticketmaster as their ticketing platform. Through our integration, a member of, or a new member of the Cherries Rewards program could buy a season ticket, buy a match day ticket. They could join the program, have the opportunity to opt in. They would collect some program currency, let's call it points, for the transaction they're making with the club. And that, if you like, is the first touch point that they would have with Cherries Rewards. And of course, at that point, it's the club rewarding their fan for making a purchase with them. And then some of those other platforms that I mentioned, so people like Retail and Sports Systems and those others, you know, they would be more merchandising led platforms. Our platform itself, so the Rewards4 platform and how we set it up for each club, comes with it a huge network of affiliate partners with whom the members, as they come into these schemes, can earn more program currency. I'll take you through the member journey in a second, but if you think about this sort of enormous kind of ecosystem for a club where a fan would join it, so a Bournemouth fan in this example would join their club's loyalty program, they would collect some program points for doing something with the club itself. They would then enter our world, and so our CRM program, and they would be shown more opportunities to collect, and that would be through their everyday spending. In some programs, betting is important. I'll show you that, especially in horse racing. It might not surprise you to hear that. And with all those other partners, they collect more of this valuable program currency. The ultimate point at which they spend and redeem that currency is back on their sport. So it's back with their clubs. And some of the stats that you can see along the bottom row here. So across all our programs, we've got north of 1 million members, 65 million. That's the amount that number increases over time. So it's the amount they've spent when using their points back on their sport. So the amount that the program members have saved, which is really important. We're working with 51 sports organisations currently. That number is ever growing. And this crazy number at the end is how much our program members have spent when collecting points through the wider network of affiliate partners that we have. This is quite an interesting slide for me because clubs that we work with have used their loyalty programs in a myriad of different ways, loads and loads of opportunities to use it. But I like, rather than sort of blowing their mind with all the other things that other partners have done, I generally like to just distill it down to 4 areas. So number one is the program and the platform is there to recognize and reward fan loyalty. I'm probably never going to make a Bournemouth fan in this example more loyal to his or her club. They're already a loyal fan. But how do you use the platform to recognize and reward that loyalty? A couple of the other really, really important areas are data growth. So like any good loyalty operator, we collect a huge amount of data on the members of the program. And through the privacy notice, the privacy policies that we have in place, we're able then to share that data. We operate the program clearly, but we're really operating on behalf of the club. So we're able to share that data back with the club, which of course enriches their own data that they have on fans. And we will ask fans, I've got a slide on it, we'll ask fans information as the loyalty scheme that the club would never be able to ask. And in fact, if you as a fan were asked that information by the club, you would very quickly turn around and say, well, why are you asking me that? It's information I don't want to give you. The other key area is obviously revenue generation. Again, I'll come on to that in a second. And the last piece is sponsorship activation. And, you know, as these programs develop over time, we're finding that more and more clubs are using the loyalty platform and the currency to connect their fans to their existing partners and sponsors. And of course, that becomes really important because, you know, it's all very nice to have your brand plastered over the club shirt or, you know, around the stadium. But actually, certainly if you're a B2C brand, you probably want to drive more of those fans to do some transactions with you. And so this is a great way to connect fans to sponsors and partners of the club. I won't go too much about this. We use Trustpilot. You may have or may not have heard that. It's a great sort of feedback platform for fans and members of all our programs to leave feedback. We have 5-star on Trustpilot. Fans absolutely love what we do, and the fact that, you know, the business and the proposition is growing is probably testament to that. This is really, we call this the fan loyalty loop. It really is the sort of crux of all our programs, if you like. So I've sort of mentioned the initial touch point. If we take the left-hand side, the initial touch point of all these programs is with the club. You know, if I'm a Bournemouth fan and Bournemouth has launched a rewards program, I'm probably going to want to be part of it. And that's particularly if I do transactional activity with the club, buying season tickets, shirts, match day tickets. But we also extend that to engagement activity. So through the integrations that I mentioned at the top of the show, through those integrations, we will also integrate with a club's app. So it's fan engagement app with its website. And through those integrations, fans are able to see more points earning opportunities. So that could be by voting for player of the match. That could be for entering polls or predictors on the club through the club's app. And all that activity we will reward with points, little and often, but it gets the fan into that mindset of why they would collect these points, because ultimately they have a value to the fan. So lots of different ways, and the initial touch points, you think about a massive sort of marketing funnel, that's the top of the funnel for us. So that is fans coming into the system, being aware of the program, collecting some points with their club. Then as they start to work their way through the funnel, we start to show them more points earning opportunities. So loyalty currency earning opportunities with the wider network. That could be with some of the club's partners, in this case, Vitality Insurance or Umbro. And we start to show them, you know, other ways to collect, if you like. All of this, I should say, is underpinned by the data that we will collect on the fans. So when they join the programs, probably the very first, pretty much is the very first question we'll ask them is, okay, you're here, we're here to help you save money, so what are you saving towards? And so we'll get them to set their savings goal. And of course, that allows us then, that's the sort of hook, if you like, for us to hang all our different kind of messaging, makes it very much more personalized to the fan. And we can show them things like progress bars. This is how far you are away from reaching your goal. So that sort of boost area, if you like, is really important, because that's where you can generate huge amounts of points. And then ultimately, why would you collect? Why would you engage with the program, and why would you collect all these points? Because it will help you save money back with your club. So the ultimate reward, if you like, is for you, the fan, to save money. And that message is resonating very clearly with fans, particularly in the, you know, the difficult economic, circumstances that we're all in at the moment, with, you know, cost of living crisis and everything else, energy prices going through the roof. Helping a fan, giving a fan a reason to renew their season ticket is incredibly important. You know, there's a lot of other opportunities for, you know, for you to spend the discretionary amount of money that you might have at the end of each month. If we can help fans, you know, do those renewals, buy that additional shirt because they've got £10 worth of points, £20 worth of points in their account, then the program is working. This last little section at the bottom here, we're a loyalty operator, so of course we do have other rewards. You know, there are opportunities to win really nice experiential prizes with the club. That is not the USP. The USP is about saving money, but there's a really nice overlay in terms of, you know, those fans being able to use a small amount of program points to win a lovely prize. I have to say that is a really nice way of getting people into the loop. So they might only have a small amount of points to start off with. They might redeem for, you know, the opportunity to win a prize, but ultimately we want them to keep all those program points in their digital wallet to use to spend back with the club. This slide kind of touches on, if you like, how that revenue generation piece that I mentioned. So, you know, you've got the Bournemouth season ticket holder, we'll call him John. He joins the program. He might go into the club shop and buy a shirt. Now, the club might at that point fund some points for that transactional activity. So let's say £1. He might then go on. We engage with John. We show him all these wider points earning opportunities. He might take out a Sky Sports subscription through the platform, and he'll collect a huge number of points, probably £50. He might then go on and place a bet with the club's DAFA sponsor, Bournemouth. So he might actually go and place a bet with them for the first time. He might collect a bounty for doing that, so some points for that. He might then go on to book his family holiday using booking.com through the website, the Cherries Rewards website. I'll show you that in a second. He might go and buy all his Christmas presents. Ultimately, all these are points generating activities. And he will then go on to, you know, build up a balance. and he can then use those points to redeem to spend back with Bournemouth. And then for a club, you know, okay, when we're talking about that revenue generation piece, you know, we can say ultimately the club has helped John through their loyalty program to save £100 on his season ticket next year. The affiliate retailers that have participated, all these partners, have funded £99 of that. The club has funded a tiny fraction of that. What it has done, it has meant that John has come back, and of course, again, as a loyalty operator, we start to measure what the impact has been of the loyalty program for, you know, for John, a member of the program, against, you know, another fan of the club who hasn't joined the program for whatever reason, and start to show that lifetime value, the incremental spend, all the other kind of important metrics that you would expect from a loyalty operator. I mentioned about the fan data. It is a really crucial part of what we do, and being able to collect and enrich, collect data and enrich the database of fans for a club. And we will ask, as I mentioned, we will ask questions of the fan, like, for example, you know, we'll ask, you know, what streaming services do you subscribe to? When do you book your holidays? What cars do you drive? Do you lease them? Do you buy them? Etc. etc. The reason why we ask all those questions is so that we can build up a better picture of the fan. But we're very transparent with the fan. We say, look, you give us this information, we'll be able to personalize your journey. So if you tell us you normally book your holiday in January, well, guess what? In January, we'll provide you with a list of retailers, affiliate brands who are on the platform who will offer you points for booking that holiday. So it gives the fan, you know, that very sort of personal journey. And of course, because we've got a loyalty currency, we're able to give that value exchange back to the fan. So, you know, the fan gives us some data on about them, and we give them some points for giving us that data. And it allows us to build up a picture of the fan, which we pass back to the club. And it's information, as I mentioned, that they would never, ever be able to ask the fan, because the fan will, by and large, just be saying, look, who's playing at the weekend, and why didn't we win last weekend, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, it's really, really crucial, important information that that will ultimately help us as the loyalty operator to drive more points earning opportunities for the fans. But of course, it also enriches the data for the club. And we've done some data capture for clubs like Everton, for example, who were looking to appoint a new sponsor last year. And we went out and collected some data. We sent out a member survey, collected some data from fans about whether they were aware of that brand, would they transact with them in the future. And we got, from the Everton fans, we got about 5,000 responses back, fed that back to the club. Now, I'm not saying that's what got that sponsor over the line, but it certainly helped. And these next slides are just to sort of show you, so that the reward site is separate to the club website, but there are lots of touch points within the club's channels. So that might be within the app, so we can embed the reward site within the app. We also have, you know, links out from their website into the separate reward site. If the club has a single sign-on functionality, so that's one login, if you like, one set of login details across all their digital channels, will integrate with whoever provides that. So the rewards platform is the same login. So we make it as easy as possible for fans to both join the program and then to start engaging with it. As I mentioned, you know, the key USP is all about helping fans save money. So, you know, we'll have things like progress bars. I should say that through our integrations, a fan can use whatever points balance they have that sits in their digital wallet. They can use that to part pay or full pay for the item. So say, for example, you were buying a season ticket and it was £100 a year and you had £25 worth of points. You could simply use £25 of points in the transaction and then pay the balance on your normal debit or credit card through that system. It would deduct, you would deduct the points balance straight away. So the basket would just say, right, you owe us £75. So it's a really, really simple journey, if you like, and use of the platform for the members. Mentioned, these are just more slides just about the whole saving proposition. I mentioned about winning, so there's the winning prizes, and we get the clubs essentially to put some of those up. We have some really lovely prizes that they can win, but ultimately, this is all about getting them into the mindset of and that behavioural change of collecting and redeeming their program points. Mentioned just about linking those sponsors into into the fans. So this is Umbro, for example, and we can start to seed into through our various channels with the fans. We can start to seed in questions that Umbro might want us to ask. So, for example, are you planning on buying any sports gear this year? For those fans that tell us they are, well, we say thank you very much. Here are some points for giving us that answer, and then we might follow it up with a transactional communication. Could be a push notification, it could be an email, whatever channel that we decide to use. But it tells the fan that you told us that you were looking to buy some sports gear. Did you know that Umbro, the club sponsor, is offering you 4 points per pound you spend if you go and transact with them? So it gives them another compelling reason, if you like, to go and transact with that club partner. That's pretty much it in terms of the rest of this is just about the platform and the services that we would offer a club. I thought what might be useful, if you'll indulge me just a little bit further, is I've got a slide here. If I stop sharing this, and I will just bear with me, I'll reshare. Sorry, bear with me. I'll just reshare this presentation. So I'm hoping you're able to see. Are you able to see this presentation? Okay, great. So our racing program, as you can see, this is a more generic program. So the reason why it is a generic program, so we called it Rewards for Racing, is because generally speaking, a race goer is not loyal to a race course. They just like going racing. And in the UK, it's slightly different in the States, the model for racing, but in the UK, it's very much, an aspirational sport. So people like to go to events like the Cheltenham Festival or the Grand National or the Derby or wherever it might be. They're all at different race courses. So we set up a more generic program for horse racing, and we have well over half now the number of race courses in the UK and Ireland participating on this program. So that's helping us to enroll their fans into the program, using it as a loyalty proposition and platform within their own marketing. And of course, most importantly, again, through our integrations, allowing their fans, the race goers, to both collect points for transacting with the race courses, but also then to redeem those points when they want to buy their next ticket, say to the Cheltenham Festival, for example. This program's been running for more than a decade. I mentioned that we've got the Jockey Club. It was one of our first main customers, and they're a huge organization. I won't go through this. This is actually hot off the press. This is our annual review for 2022. So I just wanted to run through a couple of I won't go through all this detail with you, but just some of the stats so you can see the size of that these programs can get to. So our racing membership in its own right, so that's separate to all the other stuff I just showed you, totals more than 1 million members. Last year, we had around 330,000 active members within that 1 million membership. So these are people that are actively collecting and spending points. They purchased 780,000 tickets to the races last year. So you can see how important that becomes as a proposition to UK racing. Some of those other slightly crazy numbers that you can see. So those members that were actively participating, they bet almost £1 billion with our exclusive betting partners on the racing program. Betting and racing, they very much go hand in glove, as you can imagine. We did some I suppose reasonably clever deals with the betting partners. So we have 4 exclusive partnerships, and members can earn on every bet that they place. Now, this is all done within a framework of responsible gambling. So we are a member of the responsible affiliates in gambling. So everything that we do is very much geared towards that. We are audited on a regular basis by that organisation to make sure that the messaging we're pushing out to members about gambling is done in a responsible way. But it becomes a very important source of points collection for our members because they do like to bet. And these are just some of the other, I mentioned sort of over 40 racecourse partners participating. That's in the UK and in Ireland, and just some of the other sort of stats about how much how many points they're collecting and spending. mentioned that number in terms of they bought 780,000 tickets, spending £25 million with the tracks last year. And the most important, or one of the most important stats here, is that their retention rate is 3 times more than a normal customer. So, you know, for if it's a race course and a compelling reason for a race course to try and enroll their fans, their customers into this program, it's because they're 3 times more likely to be retained the next year and come racing compared to their normal customers. So it shows that from a loyalty proposition and metrics proposition, this absolutely works, no question about it. The fact that we've had the Jockey Club on this program for almost 11 years is probably testament to that. And just some others, you know, as we're growing this program, you can see the opportunities for racing fans to both collect points when they're buying tickets to the races, but most importantly, you know, to redeem the program points that they've got across a huge number of race courses, but also some of the biggest racing festivals, you know, across the UK and Ireland. I thought this might be useful just to sort of show a member journey, just so, again, it's very much like that loyalty loop that I showed you earlier. So if you take this chap, so Jason, he buys 4 tickets to Haydock Park, which is up in the north of England. He might collect some program points for doing that, say a tenner. He then, being a racing fan and a bettor, he might place his first bet with Bet365. He'll collect £20 for that. That's actually setting up an account with Bet365. He collect £20 in points for that. Does his booking, you know, his holiday booking, does his Christmas shopping, as we showed you before. And then, you know, we'll use that money to go and save on his next race day tickets. On average, that £80 is the number in terms of how much our members on average saved on their race day tickets in 2022. Again, these are all just about the kind of data. And I thought what might be interesting is just to see, so of the 330,000 active members, you can see how many of them are bettors. So huge number. And of course, we then track all this with our betting partners. You can see the 4 exclusive betting partners there. And this all translates to ultimately better engagement with these betting partners, longevity. So our members stay longer, they bet more frequently with these betting partners. So it's almost operating as a loyalty program in its own right for the betting partners as much as it is for our racecourse partners. And then you can start to see how many new depositors came from our database in 2022, how many were reactivated, so hadn't bet for more than 12 months, and we use the points mechanic to reactivate them to bet again. And then, you know, fundamentally, you know, they collected a huge amount of points and betting a lot of money, but they then went on to buy more than 400,000 tickets to the races using the points that they collected. So, you know, if you can look at this in a way that we're connecting a fan's betting behavior to their sporting passion. And so, you know, it becomes a very, very effective program for doing that within horse racing. So I thought that might be a useful additional kind of piece to share with you. Without wanting to be death by PowerPoint today, I thought that would be hopefully a sort of useful run through to give you some more information on what we do. As I mentioned, you know, we are UK and Ireland based at the moment, but we've got lots of conversations around the world, in Australia, South Africa, and in America as well. So, you know, there's some exciting opportunities to move our platform to those other territories.
Great, thank you, Tom. Really appreciate it. Great information. If you don't mind, I know we have some time left. I know I have a couple questions and some others may, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Please. Yeah.
So, you know, over time, we've seen kind of the evolution of data. And I know you showed the 4 corners there of everything. And, you know, knowing that, you know, the clubs aren't spending much because their partners are getting in. But I guess on data, 2 questions. One, who owns the data? Do you own the data? Do the clubs own the data? Do the partners own the data? And 2, where do you see it going next? What are the next trends? Because it's being, you know, data is, I think, more valuable than seats in the chairs or the purchase of the tickets. So how do you see those two things?
Yeah, no, great question, Mark. And look, the ownership of data question is quite a fascinating one. And we obviously went through here the whole kind of transition to GDPR, which actually for us was brilliant, because it used to be the case. I'll just explain this. Actually, it used to be the case that for a loyalty program and a loyalty operator, you could soft opt in. This is pre-GDPR, soft opt in people that made a transaction. So you could basically just soft opt them into your program. Now, for us, actually, that's not all that helpful, because you want people knowingly to be wanting to collect your program currency to be rewarded. So actually the GDPR piece, which was all around consent and making sure they opt in, for us was brilliant. And we were much happier with that model than the kind of this idea of soft opt-in. So that's one thing. In terms of who owns the data, well, ultimately the fan owns his or her own data. So, what data do we control? I suppose if you put it in those terms, well, we control the right because the fan gives us permission to market to them. So, and what do we market to them? Well, we market all the different opportunities that they have to both collect and redeem their program points. And that could be opportunities to collect with third-party brands. That could be opportunities to collect with sponsors. That could be opportunities to collect with the club. So in terms of that data ownership piece, nobody owns the data other than the fan. What we do have the right to do is to market to those fans. And the club will also have its own separate rights to market to its fans. So, those two things are quite different. In terms of the data sharing piece, so we act both as a data controller and a data processor. So we process data from the clubs and from some of our affiliate brands and partners. We have to do that in order to capture the transactional spend and allocate points to accounts. We are then able to, through our privacy notice, share some of the data that we have on those fans back with the club. And quite frankly, from a fan perspective, if you weren't sharing that data, I think they'd ask the question, well, why aren't you? Because you're the club, you're my club's loyalty program. Why wouldn't you share that data back? So it's all about what's in the reasonable expectation of the fan. And for us, it's very important. We're so transparent with fans. This is why we're asking you for the information we're asking, and you give it to us, knowing, and also the by and large, there's incentives with points and what have you. But that ability to both control and process that data is the sort of key element. So that's the first bit. Sorry, I'm being a bit long-winded. The second bit is kind of the evolution. And I agree, I go to lots of different conferences and people talk about data being the new oil and all that sort of stuff. It is interesting, and it is a huge part of what we do, and it becomes incredibly valuable for all those reasons that I mentioned when I'm going through the presentations, whether that's the club using it to drive new ticket sales or merchandise sales, or as we did interestingly, as we did with the Rewards4 racing program, the Jockey Club was looking to build a new stand at Cheltenham, couldn't borrow the money, 45 million quid it was going to cost. So they set up the first retail bond in sport. And we worked very closely with Rothschild, the investment bank. They'd done a very similar proposition where over here, one of the supermarkets, Waitrose and John Lewis, had borrowed money from their customers to fund new store expansion. And it was a bond, so they paid interest on that. But the kicker was loyalty points. And so we did something very similar. And so we helped the Jockey Club raise 25 million quid to pay in part for that stand. Half of that money, more than half, in fact, was raised from Rewards4 racing members. So it became an application of the program we never ever expected. It was sports first retail bond. So it's fascinating to be involved in. And the fact that they used the loyalty points as the kicker, which was the extra incentive to get them to do the activity, which was lend the Jockey Club money, was fascinating. I never thought we'd use it for that application, but there you go.
No, that's very interesting. And as somebody that does finance as part of their practice, done a lot of different bonds, like municipal bonds and transportation bonds. So it's really interested in that respect. And I would guess it even escalates the fan experience, because now they know they have a part ownership when they're sitting there, and say, hey, I'm literally part of this. So Tom, Eduardo has a question, and I'll read it for the group. Is Rewards4 program compatible with other existing loyalty programs of clubs, and how do you work on that? If whether it is or is not, how do you address that?
Yeah, it is again a good question, and it sort of comes back to almost who are our competitors, and they are thankfully very few. Sometimes clubs will have their own internal program. So we had a great meeting yesterday with another Premiership club, Wolverhampton Wanderers, who have signed up to have us as their loyalty partner, which is great. Their program will launch just before the season starts, probably in July. They had an existing club scheme, which they call Club Cash. And that was all about the club, again, rewarding certain cohorts of fans who transacted. So season ticket holders being the most important. And they would give them Club Cash back for buying a season ticket, almost like a cashback offer. But the Club Cash, again, sat within the club ecosystem, so those fans could only use it back with the club. And we said, look, that's brilliant. And actually, for us, I mentioned when you saw in that loyalty loop, that actually one of the important parts for us is for fans to be able to be rewarded and collect program currency with the club. So if a club's already got that in place, we say, fantastic. What we're going to do is overlay this with an overarching loyalty program. So theirs will be called Wolves Rewards. And what we will then do is add in our wider earning network. So the 4,500 affiliate partners and others that we have, we're able to set up affiliate networks for their existing partners and sponsors too. This is all stuff they wouldn't be able to do under the terms of their existing Club Cash program. So we're very much complementary to them. And in fact, we've said to them, look, if your fans, and we did a fans forum, and we said, if your fans like Club Cash, we're going to keep that as the currency. We're not changing it to points. We're just going to keep Club Cash. So then everything that they earn now through the wider network translates into Club Cash. So it can be very much a complementary product. There's very few people doing what we do. I mean, there's basically one other, I'm going to say competitor, but they don't even do what we do in terms of that saving element for fans in this country. So, you know, we've been going, we've learned a lot of lessons over the last decade. We've certainly learned what works and what doesn't work. And so I think, you know, when we start to look at one of your questions, Mark, as well, without wanting to go off on a tangent, was, you know, how do you see this almost kind of evolving? Because I think, you know, the hot topics on everyone's lips at the moment are things like NFTs and cryptocurrency, and how do you link in with those? Well, we work with clubs. So I'll take Everton, for example. They also work with a company called Socios. You might have heard of Socios. So, yeah, they're big news. They have their own cryptocurrency called Chilies, which kind of underpins what they call a fan token. Now, the fan token gives you certain rights as a fan. Arguably, they're not the best. You know, you might get to vote on what song the team sing when they score a goal, or, you know, what color they paint the changing room or whatever. But actually, we said to Socios, look, you sell your fan tokens, because ultimately that's all about selling cryptocurrency. But actually, if they could collect some loyalty points that we run for Everton, so that is a meaningful thing for the fans. So the fan is buying these fan tokens, they're getting the rights that they get for that. They've got some crypto which underpins it, but actually they've collected some Everton rewards points, which allows them to pay for their season ticket. Happy days. So we've become a very much a complementary product to Socios. So they've said, yeah, fantastic. Can you do some fan surveys to find out if fans would be interested? We did. 65% of the fans came back and said, yeah, we definitely do that if you were offering loyalty points. So it just shows that, you know, you can very much sit alongside those, you know, the kind of I suppose what you might call the sort of modern ways, like blockchain and those other in the crypto world. You know, our programs and our platform can easily sit alongside those.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting, Tom. I've had some experience in the crypto world, and it's all about having users. They want more people with wallets, and to the extent that they can have crypto go through their exchange to buy the tickets, to buy the sodas, the beers, whatever at the events, they just want volume through there, because certainly the exchange will get a slice of that, and then they have more using crypto rather than that. So I think that's it's very creative, and I think the sky's the limit on a lot of this and where it goes. We have another question in the chat from Christopher. He asks, what legal hurdles have you encountered, if any, in South Africa that you think may arise again in other African countries?
Yeah, it's a good question. And We haven't yet, because we haven't set a program up. I am anticipating it'll be very similar to the, some of the legal hurdles you have to overcome here. That fundamentally that will center around data. So, the data laws, the data regulations within South Africa will be crucial for us to make sure we're on the right side of those, and that what we do over here is very transferable to that market. So we've had some early discussions sort of around racing, around some rugby as well in South Africa. They haven't yet moved on to the next stage, which is start the program implementation phase. I've no doubt that will come. In fact, I've got a meeting on Monday in relation to that. So there will be legal hurdles. We haven't experienced those yet, but I'm certain there will be some. Okay. Sorry, I don't know is the answer at this stage, but I would imagine they'll be very similar to what we've encountered here.
Sure. No, thank you. I don't see any other questions in the chat. I had another one on my list just as a curiosity. As part of your analysis and tracking, can you share, approximately what percentage of points are actually redeemed?
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. And it is, we kind of measure ourselves in some ways harshly against some of the sort of big schemes over here. So big supermarket schemes, what's the average redemption rate across those schemes? And actually, if you looked across most loyalty programs, particularly in the retail sector, the average redemption rate sits at around 15%, which is, okay. Our programs on average sit at between 45 and 50%. And that's, if you think about, why that might be, it's because, everything that we do is linking back to a passion. The passion here is sport. The passion is my club. If my club is telling me that I've got points and I'm going to transact with them anyway, I'm going to use my points. I'm going to redeem those points. And sometimes we put fans under pressure. We might in some respects, so the club might fund some points, but they might say, actually, those points will die at the end of the season. So it's a use it or lose it type situation. So then fans will definitely use their points. So for us, it's really important that they do use the points. And, if you look at some, cohorts of fans, that redemption rate will be in the 80%, because they know they're transacting year on year. It's season ticket holders and the like. They know that they want to save money, and they'll use the wider network to enable them to do that.
I would guess it's a small percentage of fans that, there are folks, and a lot of us probably use airline miles, for example. I know yeah. I do, and I really focus on that, how I use that and take advantage. But I think if you do it smartly, like if you're going to buy X and you use one of your partners, you're going to do this, like you said, the Christmas gifts, like that, that flow there, you can really take advantage, and something that takes very little time can, as you said, save or get you some rewards. But I would guess that the percentage of people that actually focus on that is pretty low. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you're looking at the percentage of people that go and use the wider network to collect their program points, actually, you'd be surprised. I think people, it depends on the jurisdictions. People here are quite used to things like cashback programs and the like. And ours is a sort of form of cashback. It is, I'm transacting with partners I was going to transact with anyway, and I'm going to collect some currency that's going to be valuable to me, because it's going to help me save some money off whatever product it is that I'm going to buy with my club. So actually the percentage rates of who goes on to use the partner network, pretty good. I think then, it's that seamlessness. I think, to use your analogy of the airlines, often you'll find that you can only use your airline points to either upgrade, or you've got 4 seats a month that are available to use points on, or whatever the restrictions are. For our programs, there are no restrictions. So when we set up our racing program, when we were talking to the chief executive of the Jockey Club, we said, even if it's the last ticket that's available for the Cheltenham Gold Cup, which sells out every year, members should be able to use their points on that ticket. And he agreed. So it literally is whatever they sell through their ticketing platform, merchandising platform, you can use your points on it. And so again, that increases the opportunity to redeem. So it probably explains a bit why the redemption rates are much, much higher than say in other markets.
Sure. I would say there's not, you don't have the loss of confidence that others have in other reward programs, because it's like, well, what am I really going to get from this?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have that loss of confidence, right? It's
Yeah.
the opposite, where you have the confidence that you're not being limited, you're not being, fettered in what you're going to be able to do. That the points are really as good as they can be, and as good as pounds or cash or whatever the currency is.
Yeah, and ultimately these things, and they're all about changing behavior. So you're right, a behavioral change is that we want people to click through from the rewards website to go and book their holiday. You might say, oh, it's one extra click, but of course you've got to change someone's behavior to ensure that they remember how to do that, or they remember to do that at the right time. Hence the kind of CRM program ensures that they get the right information at the right time, the right offers, if you like, at the right time. Plus, of course, we have all sorts of other tools like, browser extensions where little pop-ups come up and you can, so it just reminds the fan all the time that, oh yeah, I must do that because then I'll collect my points. So, there's lots of techniques that you can use, to facilitate the activity you're trying to drive.
Sure. Sometimes I think I'm being followed by the pop-ups. As I travel, I get it from that jurisdiction. But I think we've all accepted it. Well, I know we're coming close to the end of time. I want to make sure I don't see anything else in the chat. Is there anybody else that has any questions for Tom or comments?
I'm not seeing anything.
Well,
look, if anybody has, just Mark, Nicole, just feel free to pass them on. I'll always happily respond to any questions or queries. So always delighted to try and answer them as best I can. So yeah, please feel free to send anything on after the call.
Well, Tom, again, thank you. Your time is valuable. We really appreciate you talking to a group. You have people from all over the world here that are, passionate about what we do, and really interesting what you're doing. And hopefully we'll get to see you expand, and at least maybe here in the States, we'll see you as well. And maybe I'll be a member someday, depending on what who you partner with. But
yeah, we're certainly hoping so, Mark. Yeah, the States will be a big one, I think, for us. And the platform should be very transferable over there. I mean, there's no more passionate fans than you got in the States. So, we're excited about that opportunity.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you. And there's no other questions. Nicole, I don't think we had any other business for the members or Tom.
No other business other than to say thanks to Tom, and thanks again to Andy for arranging this. And if any of our other members have, similar contacts within the industry that would be interesting for members to hear from, please, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And everyone have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Great.
Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Everybody.
Take care.
Bye, guys. Thank you, Tom. See you guys.